Tonight on Denver 7 News at 6.
We were scrambling a little bit.
Colorado hits pause on Johnson & Johnson.
We had to pivot pretty quickly.
Doctors say it's the right move and are hoping it won't diminish the public's trust.
The nation's longest war is ending. Congressman Jason Crow says our commitment to Afghanistan cannot.
If it's not done the right way, we certainly will have a very, very rapid dissolution of the security situation.
Plus, lawmakers push for change in how we punish accomplices to murder.
An injury all but ends Jamal Murray's season and puts a damper on the Nuggets' playoff hopes.
The Broncos opt out of voluntary workouts because of COVID.
And Denver 7 viewers help a special hockey squad get back on the ice.
I can't thank Colorado enough.
Good evening, everyone. Colorado lawmakers are close to changing the rules on how we prosecute felony murder cases.
Currently, accomplices can receive life sentences even if they didn't know someone was going to be killed. Now, some would argue that's fair. Others believe the law needs more flexibility.
Denver 7's Liz Gilardi heard from both sides and has tonight's top story.
The Colorado House passed a sweeping reform to the felony murder statute. Instead of life in prison without parole, it would carry 16 to 48 years in prison.
It's been a long time coming.
And it's been a lengthy debate.
I cried the whole time.
Jeanette Orchard is fighting against the bill. Her father, Ken Orchard, was murdered in his home and the home was set on fire. She worries what this bill will mean for families like hers. That's why she wrote lawmakers a letter.
I had said in the letter that I had written how often I have read the statutes regarding felony murder. I read those afterward on several occasions, to look those up because it was comforting.
Senator Pete Lee says the change does not mean killers will walk free. He explains it covers those involved in a crime who did not commit a murder or believe someone was going to be killed.
That person could be a person who was merely the driver of a car who didn't even know that his partner, his associate, was going to go in and commit a murder.
Imprisoned as a teen and charged with first-degree murder, Curtis Brooks has now been free for almost 2 years.
I was 17 when I was sentenced to life without parole.
He was part of a group that stole a car. Someone in that group fired a fatal shot.
My participation in that crime was wholly my inability to make the right decision, even though I knew what the right decision was. It was weakness. It was fear on my part. So do I believe I deserve to be punished for that? Absolutely.
But should that punishment mean life in prison? It is now up to the governor to decide with a signature. Liz Gilardi, Denver 7.
And that bill is on its way to the governor's desk. Current sentences will not be affected.
A request to bar prosecutors from discussing the King Soopers shooting in public has been denied. The gunman's legal team argued the publicity hurt their client's right to a fair trial. A judge said that argument wasn't good enough and that since no specific examples of wrongdoing were provided, she would be denying their request. Westminster police are looking for this guy after he allegedly groped a woman at a King Soopers store on Federal. Now, the incident happened in mid-March and police only told the public about it today.
Albert County deputies have arrested 2 people for vandalizing a church near Elizabeth. Investigators say the 2 smashed a window and caused a mess inside. The photos were released to the public yesterday, and the pair are in custody by this morning. And Carter Lake was again closed today, so crews could search for a missing kayaker. The 31-year-old's kayak was discovered overturned Sunday afternoon.
So what would the last year be without a setback, right? The state health department has pulled the Johnson & Johnson vaccine from use because of concerns it can cause blood clots.
Well, the CDC and FDA recommended the rest of the country do the same until experts can figure out what we're dealing with.
The agencies say 6 of the 6.8 million people to receive the J&J shot developed a rare and severe type of blood clot after receiving the vaccine. All are women between the ages of 18 and 48.
And there have been other hiccups. Mass vaccination clinics in Commerce City and near Raleigh, North Carolina were called off after a handful of people reported adverse effects.
A mix-up in Baltimore ruined 15 million doses and forced states to rely even more heavily on Moderna and Pfizer. And that is where we focus our attention tonight, because while our country is currently good on supply, it does need to worry about demand.
Here's Denver 7's Gary Brode with the story.
Vaccine clinics were forced to pivot quickly Tuesday morning, like this one in Thornton.
We thought we would see cancellations, and we thought people would be really willing to just switch their appointment for a Pfizer, for a Moderna. That's not been the case today. A lot of people are still opting to just wait.
Anna Alarcon was relieved to find out she would not be getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
I was kind of happy, because me and my friends were talking about it, saying that the Johnson & Johnson was giving people symptoms.
Catherine Luovano had similar hesitations, although it wasn't going to stop her.
I've had other people say that they felt some side effects from J&J, Johnson & Johnson. And I decided that it was worth the risk to get vaccinated rather than not.
While these two had no problem taking a different vaccine on short notice, plenty others did.
Some people, believe it or not, are still waiting for Johnson & Johnson. We've had lots of cancellations today where people said they are just going to go ahead and wait for Johnson & Johnson.
Theo Gonzalez with the Thornton Fire Department oversees operations at this vaccine site that's been giving out shots since December.
It's the convenience factor, right? So Johnson & Johnson, obviously it's the one and done, and we live in a society that puts a price on convenience.
Gonzalez says on a given weekday they vaccinate about 1,800 people. But because of the cancellations, they'd be lucky to do half this Tuesday. Rural counties like Elbert County have seen some of the worst vaccination rates in the state. A spokesperson for Elbert says there are multiple factors that go into the low numbers, including a lack of healthcare facilities, but also says many people may lack confidence or otherwise trust the effectiveness and safety of vaccines. With the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being pulled for now, Denver Health Chief Medical Officer Connie Saver-Price does worry some will become more leery of any vaccine.
Pfizer and Moderna are still in use and still available. And in terms of preventing vaccine hesitancy, it's incredibly important that we be transparent and that we investigate these issues if we do hear about them.
In Thornton, Gary Brode, Denver7.
And health experts point to the vaccine being pulled as a good thing, at least in the sense that it demonstrates transparency. They also say people who receive the J&J vaccine should not worry too much about future complications.
If you had no symptoms, the likelihood of you developing symptoms or issues is so low, it's still not something I'd be worried about. I'd be more worried about potentially contracting COVID, actually. It's going to be much more common.
Centura Health tells Denver7 it is treating a recently vaccinated person for blood clots. Centura operates in both Kansas and Colorado and would not say where that patient is located. You will find more information on the vaccine and what comes next on thedenverchannel.com. And if you received a vaccine from Johnson & Johnson and are now worried about your health, we want to hear from you.
And if you got the J&J shot, you don't have a care in the world, we'd like to hear from you too. Same goes for anybody who hasn't booked an appointment yet. Please tell us what you're thinking right now with an email, 360@thedenverchannel.com. Douglas County commissioners intend to lift all restrictions once local control takes effect Friday. Tri-County Health, which operates in Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas County, had called for some precautions to remain, but commissioners said today that won't be necessary.
Yeah, this is a step towards liberty. This is a step towards freedom. Because when that happens, the responsibility goes to you and all of us. And it's that personal responsibility that I think we've lost in these efforts that have been foisted on us from above.
The governor has decided to devolve the dial as of Friday, April 16th. And when I first saw that date, I thought that's pretty funny because we're all going to pay income taxes on April 15th, and then on April 16th we get freedom.
1,900 cases of the coronavirus and 13 deaths were confirmed in Colorado today, and nearly 500 people tonight are in the hospital.
The Colorado Rapids will be allowed to host up to 7,900 fans at this month's home opener. It's about 44% of what Dick's Sporting Goods Park can hold. And the Denver Broncos will not participate in voluntary off-season workouts. A statement from the Players Union cites concerns of inadequate safety protocols and the rising case rate in Denver. Lionel will have much more on that coming up in sports. President Biden will withdraw all U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th.
Previous administration planned to pull all forces by May. And Congressman Jason Crow tells Denver7 it's time for America's longest war to come to an end. But he says special care must be taken to ensure a safe exit.
You do so by making sure that it's deliberate, it's in coordination with our allies, and we're providing our troops enough time to do so safely. It takes a little while to withdraw from forward operating bases, to get our equipment out, to make sure that weapons and munitions aren't falling in the hands of enemy forces or terrorists. So, the military knows how to do it. The key here is making sure that we're relying on the advice of our commanders to do it in the right way, and that it's not based on an arbitrary timeline.
Congressman Crow also believes the U.S. must continue to provide Afghan forces with financial and logistical support to prevent the Taliban from retaking control.
But Professor Nader Hashemi of the Center for Middle East Studies at DU says it's not a matter of if the Taliban will overtake the government, but when.
Now, of course, there's going to be a cost to this, because the likely consequence will be a full Taliban victory in the coming months and years after the American NATO withdrawal, which will have direct consequences for women in Afghanistan, for minorities, and for gains that were, made in terms of healthcare and education.
Congressman Ken Buck previously wrote to President Biden requesting troops be returned home by May, and today he applauded the administration's decision. A formal announcement is expected tomorrow.
Coming up, what Jamal Murray's injury means for the Nuggets' playoff chances.
Plus, Denver7 viewers proved to be anything but cheapskates.
I can't thank you enough. It's just huge. It allows our guys to get back out on the ice.
Winter weather advisories for the mountains and foothills tonight. Will Denver see very much snow?